Speak to you today in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Please be seated. Well, Billy Bob had a rough year. Things had not gone well. And wouldn't you know it, on the last day of the year, he was out delivering his newspapers, and the dog bit him. Well, it was a pretty bad bite. They rushed him to the hospital, and Billy Bob got into emergency, and the doctor said, I got good news and I got bad news. Good news is you're going to live. The bad news is it's rabies, and we've got to give you some shots. Billy Bob lost his cool. He was yelling and screaming and raving and ranting about all the bad things that had happened to him all year long. He was some ticked. The doctor said, I'll be back with the first set of needles, but you need to take some time and write on a piece of paper all the good things that happened to you last year. I'll be back in a few minutes. Well, he returned a few minutes later, and Billy Bob was feverishly writing. He said, that's good, Billy Bob. It's important for you to be able to reflect on all the good things that happened in your life. Billy Bob said, I'm not writing the good things. I'm writing down all the names of the people I'm going to bite. You know, it's tough to make a transition from an old year into a new year when all that preoccupies the mind is how we're going to get even for all the bad things that have happened in the previous year. But it makes sense, especially if you've been through an incredibly difficult time. This morning, we're going to reflect on the gospel until at least one person tells me I've talked too long. So if we hit about 20 minutes, somebody should pat themselves on the top of the head, and I'll stop until next week. Let's just jump right in, though. I want to share with you that the Economist magazine just published a fascinating article on the Magi. And that'll be our focus today. And this is what they write. For those of you who feel deprived of the mystical significance of the kings, however, there is more profound dimension to the ruler of the three to ponder. For three encompasses everything, past, present, and future, here, there, and everywhere, earth, sea, and air, positive, negative, and neutral, this, that, and the other. Through the trinities, the kings, who might be any Tom, Dick, or Harry, wandering in search of answers, yes, no, or maybe, to mysteries even older than the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, the birth of light, the dawn of life, and the primacy of love. I find it interesting that the Economist magazine would do a feature article on the meaning and purpose of the Magi. Obviously, the symbolism of that journey is so very profound. And so as we make our way through the gospel today, it's important that we look at all of the personalities and how that connects with you and I in the midst of our life experience. Let's start with Herod. King Herod gets a bad rap, but he has it coming. Here's the truth. King Herod started out really good. He was optimistic, he was generous, he was kind. A matter of fact, he was known as one of the great kings of all time. When things got really bad with the economy, he didn't take a 5 to 7% increase. He gave away his gold to buy grain for the people of his country. He was an incredibly generous man. But as life went on and he got older and he got jaded, he got hurt and he got offended, he began to hold resentment. In other words, he began to plan how to bite others back. And the reality is that it got so bad that he killed his wife and his kids because he feared that they wanted to take over the kingdom. He systematically ruined people's lives, killed off anybody that might be an enemy. And so by the time we get to the birth of Jesus Christ, he is completely and totally paranoid about everybody and everything. And so he makes a plan, and he's going to kill the Christ child. He knows that the Jewish community is living in anticipation and an excitement about the future of a newborn king. He knows that there's been rumors across the kingdom that this new baby will change the world forever. And he knows that his power, his control, his manipulation is at risk. And his personality type is, anybody challenges me and they die. And so what he does is he calls the hierarchy of the community together, all of the bigwigs, the financial wizards of the time, the cultural and religious wizards, and he says, listen, tell me where this kid is. Of course I want to go and worship him. I can't wait, like you, for good things to happen, he says. And they are indifferent. They can't imagine how this little baby is going to impact their world. And so they simply said, look, we don't want to have to worry about this. Send 3 wise guys. If you send 3 wise guys, they'll get the information. They'll come back, and if we've got to worry about it, we will. They're indifferent. Herod's angry, and they're indifferent. And so they send the 3 wise men, and they come from the east, and they come bearing gifts, and they come bearing a curiosity and a fascination, and they are motivated by their faith. They are motivated by their belief that something extraordinary is about to happen, and they want to witness it themselves. And so they come, and they arrive and they experience the Christ child, and it changes their lives forever. Both legend and scripture talks about them living long lives, always in praise of God. And so we've got these 3 personalities. The wise men bring gifts, symbols of their expectations of Jesus. They bring gold, a gift that was given traditionally to a king. They bring frankincense, often the perfume that was used in worship of that time as incense. And then they bring myrrh, which was a preconception of what might be happening in the future. Maybe they even understood that this king was born to die for the life of the world. And so the wise men arrive, and we've got all these characters. But what's really important for us to consider today is which one we will be in the new year. Will we be one of the Herods of our time? Will we be one of the hierarchy who are indifferent to what's happening? Or will we be like one of the wise men, passionately believing that Christ could change the world? Which one will we be? What's most fascinating in our culture these days is an absolutely huge hit of a movie. Angelina Jolie just finished directing this movie, and as you know, it stars Louis. Louis was raised in the church. As a matter of fact, in the film, Unbroken, you experience Louis attending church as a child, and he remembers what the priest says. It's just that he didn't think it was any earthly good to him. He was an angry youth, an indifferent teen, and it wasn't until his adulthood that he became faithful. But Louis, according to the true film that you have seen or really need to see, is a war hero. He survived a plane crash in World War II. He spent 47 days on a water raft in the ocean. He was caught by the Japanese Navy, a prisoner of war, who was tortured endlessly and brutally. And despite all of that, he had a resilience of the human spirit. A resilience of the human spirit until he got home. When he got home, the torture of his experience left him so jaded that he began to drink. His consumption of alcohol left him to a point where he was an alcoholic. The PTSD, that post-traumatic stress disorder, took full effect in his life. He had night terrors when he was home. His marriage began to fall apart. Now, what the movie doesn't tell you is that he was not only a war hero and somebody that had endurance of the human spirit, but that when he got home, he was given the gift of a marriage, which he almost lost as a result of the torture of his wartime experience. And then one night, in 1949, there was a Billy Graham crusade. The Billy Graham crusade, his wife attended. The unusual thing is that afternoon she had filed divorce papers from her husband. She and Louis were done. And she went to the crusade that night, and she was invited forward, and she came forward and her life changed, and she accepted Jesus Christ as her Lord and personal Savior. She went home and she said to her husband, I have filed divorce papers, but because of last night, I'm prepared to withdraw those and try again, but only if you go to the crusade with me tonight. So Louis, a war hero, somebody that endured horrendous torture, somebody who had survived a brutal war, he went to the crusade. And the first night, in the middle of Billy Graham's sermon, he stood up in a rage and he stormed out of the building. And his wife invited him to go the next night. And for the sake of the love for her, he returned. And on that night, the second night during the crusade, he accepted Christ. His life changed forever. He saved his marriage. He was able to stop drinking. He got therapy. He was able to deal with his STSD. And he was able to have new strength and new courage to continue. As you know from the film, he died this past year at the age of 97. But the last thing he did was to return to Japan to face forgive his torturers. Face to face. Forgive those who had brutally beaten day in and day out. Some will find it fascinating that Billy Graham's crusade that year preached to 350,000 people. The crusade lasted 8 weeks and 3,000 people committed their lives to Christ. You don't get to see that in the movie, but there is a new film that's coming out under Dr. Billy Graham's work, and you'll be able to see the rest of the story, how this man's life was totally turned around by a faith that came to him through the love of his wife. There are people sitting here today who will say, I can't convince my spouse or my children or my grandchildren in faith. Yes, you can. Keep praying. Don't give up. You know, the wise men followed a star that's become a profoundly significant symbol for this congregation. As we celebrate Epiphany, we believe that God can do amazing things. The research shows that in anywhere from 2 to 7 BC, there was an astrological phenomenon that they believed, those wise men, in astrology. And so when suddenly a new star arrived, brighter than any other, they knew that that was a prediction that there may be a new king in the world, and they followed that star. They knew that until they could follow the person of Jesus Christ, they needed to send the symbols that God was sending. We now have Christ to follow in this new year. We can decide to be like Herod, angry at everybody and everything. We can choose to be indifferent, like the hierarchy that was brought to give Herod advice. Or like Louis, like the wise men. We can choose to make all decisions based on our faith in Christ. It's a rather fascinating sideline that Angelina Jolie has been somewhat indifferent about the Christian faith throughout her life. But near the end of this film, they only had a few days of taping, and there was a horrible storm that chicks wouldn't quit. And in the midst of that, out of her respect for Louis and his life story, and the importance of finishing the film and getting it out so people could see a life transformed, she was seen to kneel and pray for God's anointing on the completion of the film. If you watch the interviews with Angelina Jolie, you will see her different. Louis was able to touch her life. He was a simple, angry boy who was an indifferent teenager, but by faith was changed. People will see your faith in the new year, and they will be changed by your example. Not always by your words, but by what they see in you. There is so much more to share about the Epiphany. We'll pick it up next week. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.